No, Julie Andrews is more than that. She personifies elegance, power, and enchantment. She embraced us with stories that felt like embraces, whether we were soaring through the skies as Mary Poppins or singing on mountaintops surrounded by music. Unfortunately, Julie's life was characterized by heartbreak, despite her beautiful smile and flawless voice. In addition to losing her famed voice and enduring operations, she also witnessed the deterioration of close ones. Now that she's 89 years old, she shocked fans who hadn't seen her in a long by making an unusual public appearance. Come explore with us her astonishing journey and the latest spectacular event that has captured the world's attention. A difficult upbringing in London during the war. The English village of Walton-on-Thames is the site of Julie Andrews' 1935 birth. She was born Julia Elizabeth Wells. She had a tough existence right from the start. Julie didn't find out until she was 15 years old that her mother's romance with a family acquaintance resulted in her birth. Edward Wells wasn't her biological father, although she thought he was at first. Much later, her mother revealed the truth to her, and even then, she never saw her biological father more than twice. She explained that she had never been able to tell her father the news because she had no idea whether he was aware of his paternity. Imagine if he was unaware. For what reason should I cause him harm? Could it be that it was false? For all time, she carried that memory around with her. Her parents split up at the start of World War II. She and her mother both remarried, although her mother's new husband was Ted Andrews. Julie became their roommate. Although the home was not a joyful place, both of her parents, her mother and stepfather, were drunk performers. That was a dark point in my life, according to Julie's memory. Lacking resources, they resided in an undesirable area of London. Even in his drunken state, her stepfather remained aggressive and attempted to climb into her bed. As a little girl, she felt the need to secure her door in order to keep unwanted people out. This was not an isolated incident. She claimed he suggested they snuggle when she was 9 years old. Then he decided to demonstrate how he cuddles with his mommy. Julie stated that she escaped swiftly because she sensed something was wrong. At the age of 15, he gave it another go and told her, "I really must teach you how to kiss properly." This was several years later. She carried these memories with her forever. Darkness pervaded her entire upbringing. Also horrifying was the outside world. In 1940, the London Blitz began. 8 months of German bombing fell. Julie felt the terror, heard the explosions, and ran to shelters throughout those nights. There was danger in the world, and her family was broke and impoverished. Furthermore, both of her grandparents died at an early age. Her grandpa infected her grandma with syphilis, and the disease ultimately killed them both. Julie worried that she would inherit her mother's mental disorder. "I started hearing voices in my brain at night, a frantic chatter, and I worried that I may go mad," she wrote when she was 14 years old. Julie persevered despite her crippling anxieties, which she had even as a child. A light that broke through the shadows. A way out for Julie was to use her voice. Ted Andrews, her stepfather, was a performer and the one who originally taught her to sing. Though he was a shadowy character in her life, he was also her stage introduction. Her skill shone through immediately. Her voice was remarkable for its range. Her mother and stepfather were a vaudeville act, and she joined them. There she started her career as a vocalist. She began her singing career on London's illustrious West End when she was 9 years old. She was even dubbed the pigtailed prodigy by others. More than only her parents, she performed. She began performing for aristocrats. Her performance for the Queen Mother, Queen Elizabeth, was a watershed moment. Julie curtsied after the concert, and the Queen complimented her on her great singing. "It was my first taste of celebrity," Julie remarked afterwards. That moment of pride, however, was brief. Even in her private life, she continued to experience trauma, maltreatment, and terror. Still, she gained an intangible gift from performing on stage. She possessed immense strength through the medium of her voice. A voice coach by the name of Madame Lillian Stiles Allen was her personal trainer. "I was profoundly impacted by her," Julie remarked afterwards. "My third mother" was the exact title she gave her. Julie wasn't entirely convinced when Madame Stiles Allen claimed she could sing Mozart and Rossini with excellent pitch. She boasted a 4-octave range with a voice that was incredibly thin and white. Many miles away, dogs would show up. Despite the hardships at home, Julie found strength in her singing, which brought smiles to people's faces. Persevering through challenges. Julie's stepfather was helpful in her early training, but it was her natural talent that propelled her singing career to new heights. Before continuing her studies at Beckenham, she attended the Performing Arts Cone Ripman School. However, neither high school nor college were ever completed by her. There were just too many performances on her calendar. Even though she was still quite young, she was already contributing financially to her family. She performed a duet with Ted Andrews on British radio in 1946. The Royal Command performance was shortly thereafter, and she appeared on stage. At the London Palladium, she made history as the youngest performer to ever sing for King George VI. That was a major event. Despite receiving a screen test from MGM in London, they declined to extend an offer. Pantos were local productions. Therefore, Julie continued working in them, that were put on throughout the holidays. Little Red Riding Hood, Aladdin, and Jack and the Beanstalk were just a few of the roles she portrayed. Working with her parents and performing solo gigs kept her occupied. Her ascent wasn't without its challenges. She had no privileged background. Her family was unhappy. What she lacked in effort, she made up for in brilliance. Julie may have resigned at any moment. Danger and secrecy abounded in her home life. Her folks were all over the place. As a little girl enduring the horrors of war, she continued to sing despite her mounting fears and hunger. The stage became her sanctuary, a place where she could let her guard down and truly shine for an audience that adored her. Her voice may be both a strength and a defense. A startling revelation. By the time Julie was a teenager, she had already been through a lot, but when she was 14, she received another shock. To meet a man, her mother took her. She claimed that man to be her biological father. Edward Wells was mistaken for Julie's father up until that point. To her, he was just dad or daddy. We were totally taken aback by this new guy. She was taken aback because she was unfamiliar with him and unsure of her reaction. There were only 2 occasions they crossed paths, and neither time did she reveal to him the truth. According to Julie, she has no idea whether he is aware that he is her father. As she put it, why would I harm him? Could it be that it was false? For a long time, she kept this a secret. As a teen, she carried a heavy burden of trauma, secrets, and worries about her mental health. As a child, she witnessed her mother's struggle with depression. At home, she witnessed violence. Despite the fact that she couldn't change her upbringing, she persisted in her journey. With all that suffering, she channeled it into her act. Singing gave her the power she needed to survive. Contrary to popular belief, Julie Andrews' childhood was everything but idyllic. Mary Poppins or Maria from The Sound of Music may be household names now, but she was once a timid little girl hiding behind her bedroom door. Her triumphant tale is all the more moving because of the hardships she overcame, everywhere from beer containers to regal stages. Fame didn't magically appear for Julie Andrews. Even as a young child, she started a successful profession. Along with her mother and stepfather, she began playing live on stage in 1945. The exhibition posters still didn't include her. The first time was crystal clear in Julie's memory. The reason I was ordered to go to bed in the afternoon was so I could sing with my mom and pop in the evening, she explained. Standing on top of a beer crate, she managed to reach the microphone. On occasion, she performed solo, while on other occasions, she performed duets with her stepfather. The piano was her mother's instrument. I bet it was horrifying, but it went down without a hitch, Julie said once. Despite its flaws, her performance was well received by the audience. During the war, she was friends with Petula Clark, who sang for the soldiers as well. All the way across the UK, they rode the rails, according to Petula's much so that they slept on luggage racks. According to her, there weren't many kids there, but it was still a good time. The introduction to Val Parnell by Julie's stepfather transformed that enjoyable experience into a major break. He oversaw a number of prominent London theaters as the head of Moss Empires. That link allowed Julie to launch her professional solo career when she was as young as 12 years old. Her rendition of Je suis Titania was a challenging operatic number, performed by Mignon on October 22, 1947, at the London Hippodrome. For an entire year, she called Starlight Roof her stage home. American balloon artist Wally Bogue, with whom she collaborated, was a hoot. In order to find out if any of the children in the audience desired one, he would shout out his request. Suddenly, Julie would sprint up to the counter, say, "Please, I would like one," and then shock everyone by singing. "I was lucky," Julie said, "because I utterly put an end to the spectacle. The crowd went absolutely bonkers, you know." Then, at the tender age of 13, Julie accomplished a truly remarkable feat. She broke the record for youngest solo performer at the Royal Variety Show on November 1, 1948. Both King George VI and Queen Elizabeth were present when she sang. Danny Kaye and the Nicholas brothers were among her guests. This was quite an accomplishment for someone her age and catapulted her into the limelight even more. A theater and film star on the rise, Julie wasn't done shining after her royal performance. She went into the television and radio industry like her parents. Educating Archie and Up the Pole were among the BBC shows on which she became a regular from 1950 to 1952. On Radio Olympia Showtime, she made her television debut in 1949. She was also quite active in the theater. Julie was a performer in many successful West End shows. She featured as both the egg in Humpty Dumpty and Princess Batterbater in Aladdin at the London Casino. Little Red Riding Hood and Jack and the Beanstalk were two of her previous theater productions. She appeared in another show as Cinderella as well. She made her cinema voiceover debut in 1952. In the English dub of the Italian animated film The Singing Princess, she provided the voice of Princess Zila. She had her cinematic debut, and it revealed a different side of her abilities. A monumental moment followed. She debuted on Broadway in 1954 with the production of The Boyfriend. American fans were introduced to her on the show, and they absolutely adored her. The title, Britain's youngest prima donna, began to be thrown around. 2 years down the road, in 1956, she landed her breakout role on stage. On Broadway, Julie portrayed Eliza Doolittle in the musical My Fair Lady. Her life was altered irrevocably when this happened, turning her into a U.S. celebrity. Unfazed, she persisted. She portrayed Guinevere in Camelot in 1960. She also had a starring role in Rodgers and Hammerstein's 1957 television musical Cinderella. These parts established that she was more than simply a child star. She had genuine acting chops and begged Hollywood to cast her. Julie was finally prepared when Hollywood called. The heyday of Hollywood and a different kind of stardom. Julie's breakout year on cinema was 1964. Mary Poppins, in which she starred, was a huge success. She was named Best Actress at the Oscars. She was also in the Americanization of Emily that year. She portrayed Maria in the 1965 musical The Sound of Music, which was released the very next year. Golden Globes went to her for that role. Both films were huge hits, and Julie became famous all over the world. That wasn't the end of her. She had a prolific film career for the next 20 years. Here are a few examples. Hawaii, Torn Curtain, Thoroughly Modern Millie, Star, The Tamarind Seed, Tin, Isobe, Victor Victoria, That's Life, and Duet for One. She collaborated with renowned filmmakers such as Blake Edwards, Alfred Hitchcock, and George Roy Hill. Through family films, she was introduced to a new generation in the 2000s. In both the original and sequel Princess Diaries, she played the role of Queen Clarice. She was also in Eloise at Christmas Time and Eloise at the Plaza. Animation also began to feature heavily with Julie's voice. Shrek and Despicable Me both included her voice acting. She and Carol Burnett, the comedian, had fantastic chemistry on TV. Not once in 1962, 1971, or 1989 did they not collaborate on a special. The Julie Andrews Hour, her primetime variety show from 1973, was also an Emmy winner. Jules has been hosting and co-creating Julie's Green Room for the past few years. Additionally, she voiced Lady Whistledown in the critically acclaimed Netflix series Bridgerton. She writes in addition to acting. Along with her daughter, she penned numerous children's books. In her autobiographies, Home, a memoir of my early years and homework, a memoir of my Hollywood years, she revealed personal details about her life. However, Julie's abilities extended far beyond the realms of theater and film. Her private life has its own narrative, away from the limelight. One that started before the Hollywood gimmick even happened. Julie's first marriage and flame. When Julie Andrews and Tony Walton were little, they met. His age was 12, and hers was 11. After being captivated by her performance in Humpty Dumpty, he felt compelled to write to her. They maintained a friendship for many years after becoming pen buddies. Their love blossomed later on. Over supper at Tony's parents' house one evening, a lovely and innocent thing occurred. "We should get married soon," one of us murmured to the other, and I honestly don't know how it came about, but once Julie said it, we both grinned and looked at each other. In that way, they became engaged. In Weybridge, Surrey, on May 10, 1959, they exchanged wedding vows. Guests included the renowned actress Maggie Smith. In 1962, they welcomed a daughter into the world, Emma Walton Hamilton. They began as a creative collaboration. Even for Mary Poppins, in which Julie had a leading role, Tony designed the outfits. Still, they saw a gradual decline in their marriage. According to Julie, the time was quite difficult. They were separated by their jobs. It became too much for Julie to handle while Tony was in charge of design and filming simultaneously. If she could have saved her marriage by leaving her career, she would have. She sought help from a therapist who advised her to keep working. Given as a present, her counsel was heeded. Unfortunately, the union was short-lived. By 1968, they had already separated and were divorcing. "It does tear one apart in a myriad of ways," Julie later conceded. Additionally, she mentioned that she felt she had failed terribly and hated herself for a lot. Their friendship endured the dissolution of their marriage. According to Julie, Tony was her closest and longest-standing friend. She spoke about how Tony had inspired her to view the world in a new light and how his talent was truly remarkable as she spoke about his passing in 2022. Defending him as an artistic giant, she expressed her profound loss for him. Everything was altered by a fortuitous meeting. Julie wasn't anticipating falling in love again so soon after Tony's divorce, but fate had other plans. As she was making her way out of her therapist's office one day, she noticed a vehicle heading in the opposite way. That individual was Blake Edwards. Though they'd crossed paths years before, they'd hardly spoken words. He pulled down his window and asked, "Are you going back to where I came from?" This time, Julie found it both amusing and corny. Everything changed after that little moment. They started hanging out together. Blake went on to direct Julie in Darling Lily, a musical that came out in 1969. They both came to terms with the fact that they were falling for each other at this point. "Seemed foolish not to acknowledge our love," Blake remarked at one point. When he proposed, Julie was taken aback. While they were still married to other people, they hadn't even been seeing each other for long. According to her, the connection between them was genuine and powerful, yet the news came as a complete shock. According to Julie, she thought he was the most fascinating and charismatic person she had ever encountered. Furthermore, she expressed her belief that she will never meet somebody similar to him. After courting for a while, they tied the knot in 1969. The affection that blossomed this time around really lingered. Julie became a stepmother to Blake's children, Jennifer and Jeffrey, when she wed him. Amy and Joanna, two Vietnamese girls, were later adopted by the couple. The union of Julie and Blake produced a lovely offspring. Malibu, California, and Gstaad, Switzerland, were home to their magnificent mansions. Work, children, and a profound bond were all things they had in common. Breakfast at Tiffany's was only one of several films directed by the gifted Blake. Julie had nothing but praise for him. "I can't say it enough times how outstanding a director he is," she made the statement in 2007. "And it's not merely because we're married." Similarly, Blake made his affection known to the public. "My father thanks you," was his response to receiving an honorary Oscar in 2004. "On behalf of my mother, I am grateful. You have the gratitude of the stunning English broad with the unparalleled soprano and the promiscuous words. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." Julie was that stunning English broad. Through thick and thin, they were there for each other, sharing laughs and offering emotional support. Taking things day by day was the key to Julie and her husband's successful marriage. Consequently, we were still there 41 years later. Love, tolerance, and laughter helped them get through the tough times. They persevered for 4 decades. In the face of sorrow, love endures. In 2010, at the age of 88, Blake Edwards went away. While he was dying from pneumonia, Julie was there to comfort him. The loss was enormous. Julie mentioned that with Blake's birth, they broke the mold. "I had never met anybody with his wit and sophistication, on which I depended so heavily," she continued. Her loss persisted even after all these years. She mentioned that there are moments when everything is great and she is authentic in an interview from 2015. Then out of nowhere, it will hit you square in the stomach, and you find yourself thinking, "Oh my goodness, I wish he were here." She believed he was still with her in some way. "I think one carries that love always," she said. Julie called it a true love story. "We were married 41 years, and it was a love story. It was," she told Good Morning Britain. She now lives in Sag Harbor, New York. Her daughter Emma co-founded the Bay Street Theater there. Julie is a grandmother to 9 and a great-grandmother to 3. She may have lived through heartbreak and loss, but her story is also full of joy, strength, and lasting love. "I miss him like crazy," she once said. And that says it all. Even after all she had faced, Julie kept going with grace, courage, and a quiet kind of power. But just when it seemed like she had found peace, life threw her another painful test. And this time, it struck at the very heart of who she was. A voice that touched the world, then went silent. In 1997, something heartbreaking happened to Julie Andrews. While performing in the Broadway show Victor/Victoria, she noticed her voice didn't sound right. It was hoarse and not getting better. Doctors believed it was due to non-cancerous nodules on her vocal cords. She went in for surgery in New York, but the results were devastating. After the surgery, her voice was badly damaged. She later explained that the issue wasn't just nodules, it was something deeper, a muscle problem caused during her time on stage. Her once powerful 4-octave voice was gone. What she had left was a soft, fragile alto. She tried to fight back. Julie went through 4 more surgeries. These helped her speak more clearly, but they couldn't bring back her singing voice. She even took legal action against the doctors. For someone whose life was built on her voice, it was a crushing blow. But Julie didn't let this stop her from moving forward. Even though she couldn't sing like before, her spirit was still strong. Julie didn't fade away after the loss of her singing voice. Instead, she found new ways to shine. She began doing voice work for movies. Her calm, graceful voice was perfect for animated films. She became the voice of the Queen in the Shrek movies and kept herself active in the industry. She didn't give up, and people loved her for it. In 2000, she was honored by Queen Elizabeth II and made a Dame Commander for her work in the arts. A year later, in 2001, she returned to the big screen in Disney's The Princess Diaries, playing Queen Clarice. She won hearts all over again. In the 2004 sequel, she even sang again. It was only one song, but it was enough to bring people to tears. Music supervisor Don Soler shared, nailed the song on the first take. The film crew was emotional. Some cried while watching her perform. Even with a damaged voice, she still had that magic in her. Julie had been through so much, but she stayed strong. Her journey proved she wasn't just a singer. She was a survivor, and she still had more stories to tell. Strength in a painful past. Julie's life may have looked perfect from the outside, but her early years were filled with pain. For a long time, she kept quiet about her past. Then in 2008, she decided to speak out in her memoir, Home, a memoir of my early years. She opened up about her childhood in the 1930s and 1940s London. It was a hard time. Her family had little money. They lived through war with bombs falling around them. Food was rationed, and every day was a struggle. Her mother had been abused as a child, and sadly that cycle continued. Julie's stepfather was abusive and drank heavily. He also acted inappropriately toward her when she was a teen. As a young girl, she was shocked to find out that the man she called dad wasn't actually her biological father. All of this caused deep pain. She once said, "I began to hear voices in my head at night, a crazy chatter, and I worried that I might go mad." But through all the darkness, she found a way out. Through music and performance, at just 12 years old, she was already a professional. At 13, she performed at a royal event. By 19, she was on Broadway. Later, Walt Disney saw her on stage and cast her as Mary Poppins. That role changed everything. Julie won an Oscar and became a worldwide star. Her past was full of trauma, but she rose above it. And in sharing her story, she helped others find strength, too. Julie Andrews made headlines again in May 2024. Fans were thrilled to see her out in public after months away from the spotlight. A public appearance that touched fans' hearts. She was spotted on a shopping trip in the Hamptons, walking with the help of a stick. She looked elegant, dressed in a white top, jacket, and black trousers. Her friend helped her into the car, and she seemed happy and calm. It had been 7 months since her last public sighting. Before this, she was seen taking a walk back in September. Her most recent public event had been a year earlier, when she attended Carol Burnett's 90th birthday party. Fans had been worried, but seeing her again brought them joy and some tears. A few months earlier, she gave an update that disappointed many. She said that the third Princess Diaries movie had likely been shelved. In her own words, there was dialogue about it, but nothing had been realized. And I think it's been shelved now. She also shared why she turned down a cameo in Mary Poppins Returns. Julie wanted Emily Blunt to have the full spotlight. In an interview, she said she loved the songs in the original film. "It was a brand new thing in my life that I'd never done before," she recalled. She was drawn to the music because it reminded her of vaudeville shows back in England. That connection to her roots made the movie special for her. Julie was also deeply involved in family life. She had a long marriage to Blake Edwards, and they raised 2 adopted daughters, Amy and Joanna. She was also stepmother to Blake's kids and had a daughter, Emma, from her first marriage. Julie's daughters inspired her to speak up for children's rights. She became an advocate, helping orphans in places like Vietnam and Cambodia. Her love didn't stop at home. She extended it to the world. Her family called her Grandma Jules, and to them, she wasn't just a star. She was a mother, a grandmother, and a woman who had seen it all and still stood tall. Now, at 89, she continues to embrace life with grace and kindness. As she once said, "I've been blessed with a wonderful family." And that love continues to shine through everything she does. You see, Julie Andrews' life is truly a mix of beauty and heartbreak. On the outside, she's the graceful star of Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music, the perfect picture of elegance. But behind that charm is a woman who's lived through real pain. From a troubled childhood, abuse, and family secrets, to losing her legendary singing voice at the height of her career, she faced it all. Today, she's not just a legend. She's a symbol of quiet strength, grace under pressure, and deep resilience. She's lived with dignity, loved deeply, and aged beautifully. She may have lost her voice, but she never lost her spirit. What's your favorite Julie Andrews performance that still moves you today? And if you could say one thing to Grandma Jules on her 89th birthday, what would it be? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.